The saga of OP, who hates her stepkids, who are visiting their father for the first time after he divorced his wife for his affair partner OP. Now, she says her husband's 7-year-old daughter is flirting with him after she asked him to sleep in her room on the first day out of fear of sleeping alone. Some frameworks to understand better. OP is 24, husband is 30. They met at work. OP is disabled and seems to be lacking spoons without realizing it. OP grew up without a father and doesn't think it should be a big deal for other children. Let me get this out of the way from the outset. Yes, technically I was the other woman. When I started dating my husband, he was still married to his ex-wife. He was not, however, living with her any longer or committed to repairing their relationship. Nor did he have any love for her at all anymore. He was done. She, however, had not given up on their marriage, and she was fighting the divorce tooth and nail and asking for all sorts of crazy things as far as child support and custody of their 2 kids were concerned. We moved in together very quickly, and our daughter was born right before his divorce was finally finalized, and we moved to a different state several hours' drive away. The only reason the divorce finally did go through was that he pretty much let her have whatever she wanted to end it all for good, so we could get married ourselves. The amount of child support he pays for their kids is steep, and he only sees them every other major holiday and a month in the summer. Our daughter is now 3 months old, and we are preparing for our first summer visit with his other kids. This will be the first time I have been able to actually meet them and spend time with them. They were not allowed to attend our wedding, and they have never met their new baby sister. This will be the first time they see our new home. I am very, very nervous. I have spoken to them both over the phone and Skyped with them along with my husband, so they are somewhat familiar with me. But obviously that isn't the same as actually getting to be around them and getting to know them. My husband has made arrangements to work from home the entire month they are here, so they won't be my responsibility at all. They have a very large room to share here that we have set up and decorated just for them. We have some really fun things planned to do with them. But I am definitely nervous. This will be the first time they have been away from their mom overnight ever. This will be the first time I actually see them in person. They were not allowed to ever visit our other house, and he couldn't force the issue without a court order in place. If he even wanted to see them, he would have had to do it in her house with her present and without me. So he didn't see them at all for a pretty long time. I am definitely a bit scared. Some comments by the OP. I don't necessarily agree that he abandoned his older kids, but I do realize that it will probably look like that to them. If he had run away with no way for him to contact him and no visits ever, that would be abandonment. We were living in a very small town that I am not originally from, and BM is related to like 3/4 of the town. It was impossible for us to be happy there. In fact, I was pretty miserable, and he was fast getting that way. He was able to transfer without losing any time or starting over, because his company has a branch here. He even kept the same rate of pay, but the cost of living is dramatically lower here than where we were, so our money goes way farther. My sister and my mom both live nearby. I know that that is partially the case because I am used to myself, and now myself and our baby being the center of my husband's attention. I'm afraid that having to share that spot with his other 2 kids is going to make me feel threatened and possibly could cause me to resent them. That is probably the biggest reason. His daughters are 5 and 7. I'm not sure exactly how long it's been, but it has been quite some time. It was before our daughter was born, and she is 3 months old. I think probably like 5 or 6 months. I don't work outside the home as of now. Not until my baby starts school. We are also planning another child in a year or so probably more like when that child is in school. I'm not going to set the precedent that I leave my own home, so these kids can be alone with my husband. No, he isn't putting them in day camp or anything like that. He does have himself set up so that most days he should only have a few hours of work, and he plans to try to be done before they even wake up the majority of that time. We have a few fun things planned, but I think mostly he plans to play it by ear. Commenters are gently tearing her a new one and telling her she is horrible, but also giving some sound advice at the same time. Update 1. 5 days later. My SDS 5 and 7 arrived Friday night. I finally met them for the first time, and they have gotten to meet their 3-month-old half-sister. There is definitely a lot of adjusting to be done for all of us. At first, they seemed really happy and excited to be here, and they seemed to be happy to have a new stepmom and baby sister. Both girls seem really extroverted, chatty, and quick to make a silly joke. Dinner went more smoothly than I expected. They both ate what I made and served them, and SD7 even got seconds. After dinner, We all relaxed together and watched a movie. There was no drama until bedtime. Apparently BM still co-sleeps with them, which she did not bother to tell my husband. She just assumed he would be fine with kicking me out of our bed for the entire month, so they can co-sleep with him here. When he showed them their shared bedroom and explained that at our house, this is where they will sleep, our pleasant family evening turned into a nightmare. They both started crying and begging him not to leave them alone in the dark. And when he didn't budge, they started screaming for mommy. He ended up calling his ex so they could tell her good night, which was the wrong choice because it turned into my husband and BM screaming at each other for over an hour. BM actually threatened to come get them right then, and never let them come back unless he agreed to co-sleep with them while they are here. Obviously, he refused and put his foot down, and he ended up having to block her on his phone to keep her from blowing it up. He ended up going to the store at 11 at night to buy nightlights for their room, the hallway, and the bathroom. They were not happy about him not giving in, and the uproar made seem to stress the baby out, and she had the absolute worst night of sleep since her first week home. But I was proud of my husband for sticking to his guns and not giving in. We spent all day yesterday swimming and cooking out, and SDS seemed to have fun and were happy and in good moods again until bedtime. It was basically a repeat of the first night, but without BM making it worse, and it didn't last as long. Today, we are going out to brunch as a family, and after we'll most likely either go to a little carnival downtown or go home and swim some more. We haven't officially decided yet. I think my husband is hoping that by keeping them active all day, they will be exhausted by bedtime, and it will shorten the duration of the bedtime insanity. Some comments by the OP. We are trying. I never said we had everything all figured out. We don't. At all. This is all a work in progress. What we do have figured out is that some things have to happen in order to make this work, and to be able to adjust, bond, and form a complete family. On one hand, I cannot be pushed aside and ignored the entire month his other girls are here. That is a recipe for anger, hurt, and resentment. That said, I am an adult, and they are children, so I cannot expect to have hours and hours of my husband's uninterrupted attention while they are here. Which is why we have settled on making the hour or two between their bedtime and us going to bed our time. To talk and focus on our relationship, to cuddle and reconnect, and to have sex if we feel like it. That takes nothing away from the kids, and it makes sure that our needs are met as well. I know for myself that relaxing and allowing the focus to be on the kids during the day is a lot easier when I know that I will have my time tonight. It will help to prevent me resenting his other kids or feeling insecure about my place in his life, and definitely cut back the feeling of having to compete for his love and attention. I also know this is brand new for all of us, and that everyone will have to make adjustments, and that what we think will work in theory might not work in actual practice. So there has to be room for changing things up and rethinking. Thank you. Those are some very good ideas. I'll mention them to my husband. I think letting them pick out some decor and help putting it up could be a lot of fun. Commenters are telling her they are doing great. Update 2. 7 days later. We were doing so well. Bedtime was improving every night. Shorter duration. Less shrieking. Sunday night, they barely cried. It was more of a token protest than anything else. And then last night happened. SD7 decided once, and for all that she had to prove that my husband is her daddy, and that she can make him do whatever she wants. Yes, I know this is probably not her actual thoughts or intentions. I literally got maybe 2 hours of sleep last night, and I am not happy. I am sure my actual reason will return when I can sleep. Last night was a living hell. SD7 absolutely dug her heels in and fought tooth and nail for hours. She kept the baby up all freaking night. She thrashed and kicked the wall and sobbed and screamed. For hours. SD5 participated in the chaos half-heartedly for maybe 15 minutes, then pulled her covers over her head and fell asleep. SD7 begged for her mommy, demanded to sleep with my husband, then begged, then just screamed. This child is so insanely stubborn. I have to say, though, that I am proud of my husband. As wretched as last night was, he did not give in. He told her he loved her. He kissed her good night. He went in a few times at first. He was affectionate and gentle, and then firm, and then downright stern. And then he decided that he was done paying any attention to her at all until she acts right, and he stuck to that. She finally was quiet just before 5 a.m. The baby had a very hard time settling down and was up and down until 6:30. But finally, it looks like all 3 girls are sleeping. My husband is finally asleep as well. So here I go to curl up next to him and get some sleep myself. It's going to be a long month. Some comments by the OP. I'll have to think about this after I feel better and am being more reasonable. Lol. Right now, I want to hand out a round of spankings and enforce a no-talking rule for the next 48 hours. I have come to the conclusion that my patience for other people's children wears thin rather quickly. Yeah, I do not want him to lay down with them at night. That is the only time we get for us while they are here. So I have kind of put my foot down about that. Their mom sleeps with both of them, which is totally ridiculous at 5 and 7. But whatever. No way are we doing it here. So it's going to be a long month. I don't necessarily agree with this. They are very spoiled and catered to at their mothers. That much is obvious. She co-sleeps every night with both of them. She doesn't go out without them ever. She treats them very much like babies still. It threw them for a loop that they are expected to wipe their own butts and feed themselves, and that they have bedtimes and have to sleep in their own beds. 2 children I barely know in my home. That I can't punish or discipline as I see fit. That I can't really create rules for. That are completely disrupting my 3-month-old baby's life, which in turn disrupts my life. That take my husband's attention away from myself and my new baby. That basically monopolize my husband all day long, leaving me to take care of the baby by myself. I am supposed to give up his attention, time, and affection willingly so they get what they need and expect absolutely nothing in return. That is sacrifice. A whole lot of it. They don't have to be happy. They can be mad all they want. They just need to learn to be mad quietly. Commenters are telling her the children might be unhappy because they are expected to live by totally different rules all of a sudden and never knew anything different than how their mother treated them. OP says it's ridiculous. They can't adjust. Update 3. 10 days later. Peace. Lol. I have the house to myself, and it is beautiful. Last night was a turning point, I think. I think SDS have realized no matter how much they cry and scream, they are not getting out of sleeping in their room or getting my husband to sleep with them. SD5 didn't even fuss once last night at bedtime. She just hugged and kissed her daddy goodnight and acted like she had been sleeping on her own her whole life. She is the younger sister, but she has a much more mellow personality and is not near as stubborn and needy as SD7. SD7 literally begged on her knees for DH to sleep with her, begged for mommy, and literally lost control to the point of screaming and hyperventilating, or seemed to anyway. My DH gave her a hug and a kiss, told her good night, and walked out without even acknowledging the tantrum. He and I stood in the hallway where they couldn't see and listen. SD quit shrieking like someone had hit an off switch, and we heard her say, "Watch this," to her sister. And then she let out this blood-curdling scream and started crying. "Why don't you love me, Daddy?" Like she was being murdered. Had he not heard her say, "Watch this," he would have felt awful. And he admitted that it would have been really hard to stick to his guns, and he would have felt so guilty about everything. But hearing that drilled home the level of manipulation she is trying for here. We didn't say another word to them at all. SD7 cried and screamed for probably a half hour or so, but neither my husband nor I reacted at all, and it was short-lived. We spent today swimming, and then DH took all 3 of the kids to hang out at his cousin's house and eat dinner, so I could have a few hours to myself, which feels great. Once they get home, we will get the kids settled for the night, and he and I are going to share a bottle of wine on the porch and enjoy each other's company for a while where we won't be able to hear it if SD7 does yell and scream again. I think we have gotten past the worst of it, especially now that my husband is fully aware of SD7's manipulation. He said he was so glad he heard that for himself, because now he doesn't feel a bit guilty about ignoring her theatrics. And he feels like he can focus on just being with me for a few hours. I cannot wait. OP is downvoted, and the commenters express sadness for the children. OP doesn't really understand why she is criticized for her thoughts in a forum for step-parents. Update 4. About 2 weeks later. I don't know if I can effing do this. Not quite 2 weeks ago, my husband found a tiny kitten under his truck at work and brought her home. She is my sweet baby, and I love her. SD tried to pick her up the first day she was here, and she got scratched. Very minor scratch. But she acted like it was a fatal wound. And she has been mean towards the kitten since. Today, she let my indoor kitten out. I was looking for her to feed her, and she pasted a big smile on her face and said, "I made her leave. She was a bad cat, so she doesn't live here anymore." She was trying to act all mysterious, but my husband finally got her to admit that she let her out. We have been searching for over an hour and have not seen even a sign of her. My heart is broken. It is totally dark. She is tiny and doesn't go outside. My husband asked her why she would do something like that, and she said that the cat was mean and didn't like her. So she kicked her outside and hoped a dog gets her. This is not normal. This child is straight up evil. I am shut in my room crying, and I don't want this kid near me. I told my husband he needed to take her right back to her mom. I don't want her here, and I don't want her near my baby. She is not normal at all, and I want her out of my house. Commenters are pointing out that stepdaughter did what her dad did. If you don't like someone, you make them go away. Some commenters also suggest therapy and tell OP a 7-year-old is not evil. OP says she hates stepdaughter. OP had one I can't recover. But the one lone commenter tells her to please stop posting in. She starts to post in. Update 5. About 2 weeks after the original posting and 2 days after the kitten posting. Okay, I'm going to try here since the other place had a very hard time understanding that I was posting during a very emotional time. And this is the only other relevant sub I could find. I was angry and hurting and raw. And yes, saying harsh and cruel things about SD7. I was not saying those things to her, or where she would ever read them, or even to my husband or out loud at all. Nor would I ever, because even as upset and emotional as I was also aware that she is 7, and that this month is hard on her too. I'm not going to go into a whole ton of background. If you didn't already read it, you can see it through my profile if you want to know. Or you can ask whatever questions you have. Fighting all of the insecurities inside is hard enough as it is, without everyone trying to force me to accept that SKS hurt trumps mine all the time, and that no matter what I do, myself and my baby will always come last, because BM and SKs were in my husband's life before I was, and will be in his life long after he leaves me behind. That is such a hurtful and mean thing to say to someone who is struggling, because that is their biggest fear and insecurity. How can anyone feel safe and secure in their life and in their family when people are always trying to convince you that you aren't important or even really a part of your own family? I don't understand that at all. And yes, I know that there was more to what people were saying than that, and that no one came out and said outright that I didn't matter. I realize the fact that that is what I see when I read through those replies is a symptom of my own insecurities. I have never wanted to shut my SDS out of our family or our lives. I never wanted them to just go away. What I wanted and still do want is for them not to have the power to do those things to me either. I don't want them to go away, and I don't have the power to make them. I simply want them to see and understand that they don't have the power to make me go away either. Their place in their father's life is safe. I just want to be able to feel that mine is too. Quick update on the situation I haven't shared anywhere, but in private messages because it was made clear I'm not welcome there any longer. My husband did finally find my kitten yesterday morning. She had some superficial injuries and a limp. But after a trip to the vets for a check, we know she will be fine very soon, which is a huge relief. I haven't interacted very much with SD7 since the incident. My husband grounded her from her tablet because of what happened, and he has told her that until she can apologize to me and treat me with respect, she will sit out of fun activities. She is very stubborn and refuses. My husband made her sit in a lawn chair while SD5, my baby, and he and I went swimming yesterday. Not sure what happens now, or if he will be able to stand by what he said, so we'll see. On a positive note, we have had zero trouble with their bedtime since it all happened. Update 6. 18 days later. I know there are a certain amount of people here that will insult and be rude no matter what I say. I get that, and I am not so thin-skinned that I can't handle it. And I am not wasting my own time or turning this sub into a free-for-all with insults and pointless nastiness that gets nowhere. I honestly didn't think I would be back at first. But then yesterday, after I had cooled off some, I finally started getting some very thoughtful advice and some actual support too. I know I can be very defensive, and I can't promise I won't ever again because, in the heat of the moment, I probably will. But I can promise that even so, I will also come back, reread, breathe, and try to be open-minded. Okay. Now that I have said that, I did make an appointment with a counselor. There is literally one practice within like 100 miles of here that actually takes our insurance. So I didn't have much of a choice about who to see, and I couldn't get an appointment until the end of August. But it's a start. Today, I am going to rejoin my family. Since the whole incident with my kitten, I have pretty much withdrawn from my husband and my SDS. I have been so angry and upset that I couldn't be around SD7 and pretend nothing was wrong and be nice. And I did not want to ruin the rest of SD7's visit for my husband. Last night, after he got the girls in bed, he came into the bedroom where the baby and I were, and he asked me if I would please spend family time with him and SDS again. We have had plans to attend a barbecue at my brother and his husband's house today for a long time. My brother's stepson is 6, so right in between SDS, and we are all very close. I was debating yesterday. Part of me wanted to go so badly and just have fun and enjoy the day and not think about any of this SHT. But I was also hesitant because I do still have anger towards SD7, especially. And I am not very good at acting nice when on the inside I am like simmering. But when he asked me outright, I didn't feel like I could say no. So today, I will be giving it a shot. My husband took all 3 girls to grab breakfast, since food won't be served at my brother's until a lot later, and to give me a chance to shower and get ready and take my time doing it, and not have to try to juggle getting ready and the baby. Which has been very nice, I have to say. So now, I am sitting here trying to psyche myself up to be able to smile and be happy, and not think about any of the SHT from this week, and just relax and enjoy spending time with my family. And if I'm not actually enjoying it, then at least act like it. My husband and I discussed everything pretty in depth last night. Like way more than we have before. When I said that SD7 has given me a very different type of concern than SD5, and that I was actually nervous about it, I tried to explain my concerns without using the kind of language that would make him shut down and get defensive about his daughter. Which wasn't easy. But he knew what I was trying to say. And I was surprised that he admitted he has seen small things that have caused him some concern as well. And he has agreed to try to email BM about his concerns, and with a request that she consider seeking a counselor for both girls, so it doesn't come off as picking on SD7. So that was a positive step. I am not going to sit here and say everything is all going to be okay. I have no idea how it is all going to play out. But I can say now I feel like my husband and I are on the same page, and he is willing to truly listen and hear what I am saying without getting all defensive of SDS. It's going to be a long journey, I think, but I do think we will be all right. It felt really good that after we talked he held me until we both fell asleep. And he kept telling me how much he loves me, and that he promises to find a way to make me happy and feel safe. It felt really good to hear. So today, I am biting my tongue. I'm going to go to my brother's. We are going to play Happy Family. I am going to pig out on good food and drink some beers and get full and buzzed and enjoy summertime, and ignore everything that isn't fun and chill. Update 7. 20 days later. This is so hard. So yesterday, I woke up in a great mood with every intention to keep a positive attitude and spend some time trying to bond with SDS and make their day as pleasant as I could, since my husband had to actually go into work for the day for meetings and wouldn't be home until at least 5 or 6. So it was just me and the 3 kids. I'm not going to claim I am totally over what has happened, or that I don't still have a whole giant tangle of emotions under the surface, some of which are completely conflicting, and some that I don't even understand myself why I am feeling them. But SDS are only here for a couple more weeks, and it would be just cruel to my husband if I didn't try. So I made the kids a decent breakfast, and then planned to swim with them and the baby for a little while, and then let SDS pick a movie we could watch together once I got the baby down for her afternoon nap. I figured that was a low-pressure, relaxed way to spend some time with them, and try to maybe get to know them better, and have a better understanding of how they are feeling about everything. It all started out okay, until SD7 got overly rambunctious in the pool, and ended up kicking the baby in the face. I knew it was accidental, and it wasn't very hard. I wasn't angry or anything. I just comforted the baby until she quit crying and asked SD to go to the other side of the pool to play if she still wanted to do flips and stuff. And I opted to sit on the steps with the baby to make sure there was room for the older girls to play. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say anything that could possibly be construed as mean or angry. I was being extra careful not to. SD7 completely shut down. She quit playing, quit laughing and chattering. Everything. She just got this sullen expression on her face, and just stood there staring at me and the baby, not saying a word. After a couple minutes of this, she physically tried to shove me out of the way so she could get out, and refused to say a single word and went inside. She shut herself in their room and refused to come out or say a single word until my husband came home much later. When he tried to get her to talk, all she said was, "Don't leave me alone with her and that baby anymore. That baby makes everything boring, and I don't like it." He tried to tell her that everyone has to be a baby before they can be a big kid, and that if she was nice to her baby sister, in a couple of years or maybe even sooner, her baby sister would love and admire her so much. He tried to tell her about his own little sister, who is 5 years younger than him, and how he thought she was boring too at first. But now they are very close and love each other very much. When he and I finally got to sit down and talk about it later, he said she wouldn't say a single word after that first response, and wouldn't even make eye contact with him. And he has no idea if she was even listening or understanding. She refused to even acknowledge him after that until he went in at bedtime to say goodnight. At that point, it was like a whole other kid. She hugged him over and over, and was like overly saccharine sweet to the point that it seemed really fake, and kept gushing about how much she loves her favorite daddy, and how he is the best person in the world, and she will always be his little princess. That part I witnessed, and I have to say, it was weird. Especially since he has never called any of the kids his little princess before ever. He uses pet names. Don't get me wrong, but that isn't one of them. And she kept like stroking his face and hugging him really close over and over. I didn't say much to him about it. I just let him talk. I mean, yes, it seemed very odd to me. But I don't really know enough about kids that age to know if it is something truly weird or anything. But when he came out, he told me that that whole encounter felt completely bizarre. Like, almost like she was trying to flirt with him. And then he got all upset and uncomfortable, and was basically kicking himself for that to have even crossed his mind. One good thing is he is starting to really open his eyes and see that something isn't right with her, and that he needs to get serious with BM about getting both of the girls into counseling before it gets worse. Comments by OP. About the bond between father and daughter, no, I don't understand it. To be honest, I've never even seen it, except in movies and on TV. And no, my uterus isn't golden. But my marriage and my relationship with my husband are. The number one most important relationship in a person's life is supposed to be the relationship with their spouse. No relationship should come before that, not even the kids. He has emailed her mother a couple times about it, but the replies were not exactly helpful. She pretty much used that communication with him to remind him that he could always come home for his daughter's sake, the first time which he ended up ignoring. And then the second time, she told him that it was because they are children of divorce, but that it wasn't too late to change that. So yeah, she is not helpful at all about it. To be honest, I didn't try to fake much of anything prior to the barbecue this last weekend. I mostly just kind of hung out in the background and paid attention to my husband and daughter. I probably ignored them way more than I should have, and I will own that 100%. And then after the incident with my kitten, I was way too angry and emotional to fake anything at all. So I am sure they are aware that they aren't my favorite people, which looking at it now makes me feel awful because they are such small children. But I'm going to sit here and own that it is a lot easier to blame them and hold a grudge against them than it is for me to be understanding about everything they are dealing with. And yeah, I know that that is a pretty SHTTY way to be towards little kids, and I don't like or enjoy feeling like this. Which is why I am trying here to stop reacting on raw emotion, and to try to figure this all out. The children are back with their mom at this point. Update 8. 23 days later. So while this isn't exactly related to the issues I have been posting about, I do realize that that depends on how you look at it. I don't know how much I have shared about BM's religious beliefs and the religion she was raised in. I know I mentioned it in passing because BM's parents have basically threatened to disown her if she dates anyone else or has a relationship with anyone else because they don't believe in divorce, and they believe that she and my husband will always be a couple in God's eyes. I obviously don't have BM or any of her family on social media, but my husband did one of her cousins that my husband was always good friends with, and one of her brothers and his wife. He actually went down his friends list, blocking every single person on there with any connection to BM at all last night. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I shared in another post that we had gone to a barbecue at my big brother's home last weekend. My brother is amazing, and just about my favorite person on earth. He is also gay and married to an equally fabulous man, and they are raising his son together, the husband's son. Not my brother because the mom passed away just a few months after he was born. Anyway, we took a bunch of pictures at the barbecue, and my husband put them all up on social media. Apparently, one of the people connected to BM showed her the pictures, and she is going insane. She sent my husband a long-winded tirade about how dare he take her little girls around two gay men, and how the last thing she wants is for them to see same-sex couples as normal and acceptable. She is not ready to have that discussion with them because they are way too little, and it is all just going to confuse them. Especially if they get to know and like them as people, because they aren't going to want to believe that those two nice men are going to hell, which could lead to them questioning God and right and wrong, and maybe even wanting to explore that lifestyle themselves someday, blah blah blah. My husband pretty much just told her to relax. The girls are not going to catch the gay, and that she was free to try to teach them whatever she chooses on her time. But during his time, he is free to teach them how wrong mom and the grandparents on that side really are. She demanded he no longer take SDS around my family and threatened to get the law involved. He saved all of the emails. He isn't sure why, but he said he has a feeling they might be useful. When they were together, she was not practicing any religion at all, and wasn't sure what she believed as far as that sort of thing goes. She had rebelled against her parents' conservative and strict religion in high school and the first several years after. And she talked to my husband several times about resenting the way they had raised her and barely spoke to most of her family. He knew that since they split, she had reconciled with her family somewhat. But he hadn't realized she had jumped back into their church belief system with both feet. He is pretty surprised because not too long ago, she claimed to hate any and all religions and considered her upbringing abusive. I know there isn't anything we can do about this kind of thing beyond ignoring her and doing what we want. So I think this is probably just a venting thing. But if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, it is always welcome. Notable comment. I know it's tempting to feel morally superior to her, and I certainly think that her stance on your brother and his partner is reprehensible. But before you judge her too harshly for going back to her religiously conservative family and embracing their views, have you considered that when her husband left her for you, she needed support from someone? Hard to judge her for that. Effective response 3. Update 9. 26 days later. Disclaimer. This is kind of a vent, kind of a request for support and advice. But please don't be too harsh with me. This post is bound to be a big pity party, and it probably will end up not necessarily being very nice. Which is the entire point of posting this in the first place. I am trying my damnedest to get all of this SHT out so when my husband and my SDS come home I can smile and be kind and keep all of these ugly emotions under wraps. So my husband had actually gone in to work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When he got home Wednesday night, he informed me that he had made hotel reservations for Monday for Father's Day weekend, next to a water park, several small amusement parks, and a mini golf place. It's kind of a boardwalk type place, like 3 hours from us. For him and SDS only. He said he feels like he needs this time with just them, and it wasn't a great place to take a baby anyway. I get why he feels that way. I completely understand that this is really good for SDS. But I have been seriously struggling. It is his first Father's Day with our daughter, and it really hurts that he didn't choose to spend it with her. I know she won't remember, and it really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. But it does suck. It feels like she isn't as important to him as they are. I know she lives with him full time, and SDS don't get him that much. I know that logically. But that doesn't make it feel any better. I have been bouncing between crying my eyes out and attempting to convince myself that this doesn't mean he doesn't love me or our daughter, and that I need to just deal with it, and don't let him know how much it hurts, because it isn't fair to make him feel guilty. But every fear and insecurity I have inside me is tearing me up inside. I hate my SDSD so much right now. I want to hate them and blame them for ruining my family. And yes, I do see the hypocrisy here. But it's very hard to care about that right now. I also know they are little girls, and none of this is their fault. And I will never breathe a word of this out loud. Ever. I do want to get past all of this, and I do have an appointment with a counselor to help me get there. Please don't be too harsh about this. I know logically all of the things that are wrong with all of this, and I'm not going to say anything to my husband or my SDS when they get back. I'm trying to get all of this out before they come back. Some comments by OP. I have to be honest here. If he had planned this prior to the bedtime battles and the incident with my kitten, I would have fought him tooth and nail and made it clear that if he did something like that without me, I would lose my SHT on him. I might have even left. About seeing them as family, I started their time here doing just that. But the way it has gone has changed that, and I'm not sure how to get that back. It is very hard to think of people that hate you and go out of their way to make you miserable as family. And yeah, I do realize that they would probably say the same about me if they were old enough to have that sort of insight. The difference being that I didn't have these kinds of feelings until they made it clear that they hated me. I'm not sure I agree. The way they have behaved since their arrival has made it very clear that they hate me and don't want me here. SD7 in particular. I also don't believe they are trying to articulate hurt or misery through temper tantrums. Anger maybe. My husband hasn't angered their feelings at all. If anything, he has catered to them more than I would like. And I'm trying to step back and look at it all logically and not let my emotions color my thoughts on that, even taking everything else out of the equation and looking at it all in a purely rational way. I am realizing that he and I have very different styles of parenting, which is something I haven't seen before because our daughter together is only almost 4 months old. Update 10. 27 days later. I'm sorry for blowing up the sub lately. Typing everything out and discussing it all has opened my eyes to some stuff I didn't really want to see and helped me to look at things in ways I may never have without it. So, my husband and SDS came home from their trip yesterday evening. Obviously, I was struggling still and dealing with some super mixed feelings about the trip and about everything else to do with SDS, my daughter, and our family. I didn't say much until the girls were in bed. I was nice to them, though. The girls ended up trying to fight bedtime again because at the hotel my husband slept in the same hotel room, and they ended up begging him to lay in their room with them until they fell asleep. But he didn't give in, and it wasn't long before they were quiet because they were very tired. Once we could be alone, my husband came to sit on the couch with me to talk. He apologized for springing the trip on me the way he did and said that it was an impulsive decision to even go at all, and that if he had stopped to really think it through, we all would have gone together. He was upset and worried that this trip was reinforcing the idea that we are two separate families rather than helping everyone feel like a family together. So he feels like taking the trip the way they did was a mistake. And this feeling was reinforced often throughout the trip because SD7 kept wanting him to say that he loved her and SD5 more than anyone else in the world, and that if he had to choose between them and my baby and me, he would always choose them. And when he wouldn't say either of those things, SD7 got angry and had a major attitude. And it wasn't that he refused to tell them he loved them. He just refused to add the more than me and the baby part. And he told her that everyone in our family is important and that sometimes their needs might be more pressing. But that sometimes mine or his might be, and sometimes the baby's might be. That every person in our family matters, and that no one gets to be number 1 inch all the time. He said he tried to explain the difference between the parent-child relationship and the married-partner relationship. But he doesn't think he did such a great job at explaining. And it ended up going in a direction he wasn't anticipating because SD7 kept insisting that he and her mom were his family, and that I was not and never would be, and neither was the baby, and that her mommy wants him to come home. And when he tried to explain that his family is now SDS, baby sister, and me, and that while mommy will always be their family, that she wasn't his and won't ever be again, which turned into her sobbing and begging him to change his mind. He seemed very tired and very discouraged. I tried to be loving and supportive and didn't bring anything else up because it really just wasn't the time. I just encouraged him to stick to his guns and insist that BM gets them into counseling ASAP because, at this point, that's probably the only way to help them. He is angry because he believes BM is putting these things in their heads and is trying to use the girls as pawns to try and manipulate him into coming back. I don't know. I had a ton of things I wanted to talk through with him, but they kind of ended up getting shelved for a later date because he very clearly needed me to listen more than anything else. I am clearly not the only one struggling in all of this. Every single one of us is. Notable comments. Deleted user. Not to be harsh, but your husband seems like a not-so-great parent and a little erratic in relationships. So I think you need to start thinking about how you would like your daughter's hypothetical future stepmother to treat your daughter and help your relationship with yourself. Just act as you would like her to. OP. I realize he wasn't a good father to SDS for a long time. Well, I realize it just because I've heard it enough on Reddit anyway. I never had a dad, and my only clue what a good dad actually looks like comes from watching my brother and his husband now and then. I never felt I needed a father or even wanted one. My mom was and still is wonderful, and you can't miss what you have never had. Not valuing having a father personally probably colors the way I look at fathers in general. And it probably is why knowing he isn't always such a good one has never bothered me. As far as relationships go, he isn't erratic at all. Once he decided it was over with BM, he did not vacillate even once. And when he and I fell in love and decided to live our lives together, there wasn't a moment's hesitation. Obviously, I wouldn't want him to abandon her, but I think I would prefer he did than have to live the way my husband would have had to live to have regular visits right after their split. And I don't have daddy issues. I have never cared that mine wasn't around. I have a great mom, and that was all I really needed. In all honesty, I would have hated having a father a good portion of the time, well, if he was a disciplinarian or the type to enforce rules and structure anyway. I had a lot of freedom, and my mom is a huge free spirit like I am. Rules, structure, and discipline would have made me so miserable. Really, it still would. That children always come first attitude, I think, is a big reason so many second or second-plus marriages fail at an even greater rate than first ones. In a first marriage, generally the marriage predates the children, and it is much more common to believe that in order to be good parents, they must be good partners as well. And it is not harshly judged to believe that the marriage comes first, because if the marriage isn't happy and healthy, then the family can't really be happy and healthy either. In subsequent marriages, the adults are automatically expected to prioritize their kids from previous relationships above the marriage itself. It has to be a hell of a lot harder for a marriage to stay happy and healthy when that relationship is constantly pushed aside or stuck on the back burner because the kids are always to come first. This would be hard enough when there are children on both sides. But how is a person who doesn't have any other kids or any past marriages supposed to be happy in a marriage that can't ever be the priority because kids come first? Update 11. 29 days later. I have read through my thread from yesterday several times today, trying to see exactly what I had said to make so many people so angry and hostile towards me. I was hoping that once I stepped away and cooled off a bit, I would be able to see what exactly I had said to create the mess it turned into. I did not have any intention of stirring up drama that way, and I'm sorry it turned out like that. Even reading through it today, I am still a bit confused and feel like I am seriously missing something. I still don't understand what it was that caused such strong reactions. Seriously, I am confused. I walked away from that thread yesterday, feeling like something that is supposed to be inside of me is missing, and I can't even put my finger on exactly what that is. Reading all of the harsh and angry things people had to say to me, and then rereading the things I wrote that they were reactions to. I don't get it. The level of anger and hostility seems really out of proportion to what I said. Yesterday, I was very surprised by a lot of it. And I was hoping that after walking away and calming down, and then reading through it all later with a cooler head, that I could better understand it all. But I have to say, I still don't get it. So I have some honest questions for all of you, and I hope some of you will give me honest and straight answers. What exactly was it that caused all of this anger? What did I say to provoke this level of animosity? I can absolutely see not agreeing with the way I see things. Every single person on earth is different. Everyone's thoughts, opinions, and points of view are all colored by countless things: life experience, age, environment, interests, personality, goals, ambitions, intelligence. And that is just barely scratching the surface. Not one person on this planet will see every single thing in the exact same way that you do or I do. But is looking at things differently such a bad thing? Something else I have to say. Yes, I absolutely know that I am struggling. I have never claimed to be perfectly healthy, emotionally stable, or particularly strong. In fact, I have been quite honest about how I am not any of those things right now and how much happier I could and would be if I could find a way to feel safe and secure in my life and to know that I am truly loved and valued. I came here searching, and I'm not even sure exactly what I was searching for. But I saw a place where it would be safe to be totally honest about everything I am thinking and feeling, and not pretend to be something I am not, or to feel things that I don't. It felt so good to just be real, and not have to try to pretend I'm some long-suffering, selfless Madonna figure willing to sacrifice anything and everything for others. Which is obviously an exaggeration, of course. But it is similar to how stepmoms are supposed to be. And if you express negative emotions about your SKS, or make choices to improve your own life, rather than theirs, you become this wicked stepmother stereotype. I also want to make something else clear here. I do know that when I get excited and worked up in these discussions, I tend to express things in a very melodramatic, over-the-top sort of way. It isn't something I do on purpose, but I am aware that I do that. I know it probably sounds very silly and ridiculous to ears that belong to someone more practical and down to earth. I am neither of those things. Lol. In fact, I have always been the exact opposite. Anyway, I didn't start typing this meaning to write another of my long-winded diatribes. Once I start, I seriously have a hard time stopping. And yeah, IRL, I'm a big time talker too. And I do recognize when people's eyes start glazing over that it is time to STFU. So I expressed what I felt the need to. Do with it what you will. Have a good day, everybody. Some comments by OP. I just wish I could understand why the things I have said create so much anger from people. People have pointed out to me what it was I said that created that reaction. But not a single person has ever explained why. Anyway, thank you for the resources. I'm really considering taking my baby and going home. I'm tired of feeling like this, and am never going to be able to be okay with the way things are. And no, this isn't a, I'm going to take my ball and go home pouty thing. This is me realizing there is a disconnect somewhere between what I need to be a happy, fulfilled person, and what my life can be like here with my husband. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.